Yeah.
Where am I? Where am I? Where? Oh, there we
Okay,
are.
we're recording. Say, welcome to a very special meeting of the Buzztouch Developers. Smug Wimp in Guam is going to do a training for us on how we use the new control panel. Let me turn it over to you, Smug.
Alrighty. First and foremost, I guess, let's go ahead and do a quick review over what we get in a control panel, or I'm sorry, in a plugin. In our new plugins, the BT version 3.0, we get all our, you've seen these directories and stuff. The one that you may or may not be completely familiar with is this config underscore CP, which is now our new control panel configuration file, and then your config text. The config text, the only thing you really got to remember about it, it's everything is the same as it used to be. The only difference now is you have supported devices, Android and iOS, and what that will do for you is in your screens. When it comes time to somewhere around here, where's it at? I guess it's on download. Maybe when you prepare a project download, it tells you which screens, which ones are available for you. And that's all that this is really doing. It either says iOS, or it says Android, or it says iOS and Android, either one. And that's all you got to really worry about with your config text. Everything else has to do with what goes in your your plugin control panel. And of course now my server wants to take forever to get there. Or maybe it's Safari. I still haven't figured out which. So we go into this test plugin that I created. Oh, and if you haven't gotten one yet, I did create this test plugin for everybody. And if you haven't gotten a copy yet, the location is okay.
I'm terribly sorry, Smug. I forgot that you
I
had it.
guess since I'm talking, I can't. Oh,
I forgot. I had forgotten that it's something we're supposed to distribute. I can send an email if you'd like. Oh, everyone could get the link from here.
yeah, no, that's fine right there.
Okay.
So anyway, it's a test plugin I built for this, and as I've said before, there's my desktop for test only. So we have all these. Let's go take a quick look at what we've got in our config CP text. Basically, it's like the old index PHP, but it doesn't contain any of our code. All it's really containing is a line-by-line representation of what's going to be in your control panel file. So here a screen nickname is given to you by default. You don't enter that in, it just kind of appears because it's sort of the one common denominator that every plugin absolutely must have. And then the rest of it is your navigation bar and all of these other attributes that you've seen. Some of them are built into BT, some of them you have to create. The ones that are built in are in this BT section. The ones that you create will say custom include and will be located in your plugin directory. All these files are in the same directory as your plugin, and they're located here. You just tell it that it's a custom include, and it knows to look in your plugin directory. And then, of course, you have to give it the correct plugin name or the correct file name for it to be able to find it. Now, there's a couple of example sections called Custom Section 1 and Custom Section 2. And all you really need to do is basically, these are your keywords that you're going to have to replace. So in our examples, I've given one example of a checkbox, of a drop-down box, the generic text, and a radio button. The generic text is pretty much what comes in the example. So in my control panel, we have a text box example, which is just a text box, and the checkbox example, which gives you a couple of checks. Radio button example, so you can do radio buttons. I don't know exactly why it's aligned that way. It's probably with the CSS. I haven't played with it too much. And then a drop-down box example for you. To make this a little easier and to illustrate a point where, where's my, forgive me for being half blind sometimes. Okay. So in your config CP text, you list out what you want. You can also say what you don't want. If login and all of these don't really matter to you, you can take them out, and you don't really have to even have them in there. And so doing that, actually, hang on for a second. I apologize. What do I want to do here? Okay, let's close this. No, don't save it. And let me open from my FTP server. And we can see the exact changes as it happens. Where am I? Not EULA screen.
Say Smug, that was kind of confusing for me too, but I think is it custom or custom include we're supposed to say there, you know.
Good question. And I've actually seen a couple of different variations of that. And I kind of think that he's triggering on the word custom, because I've seen it with custom and it works, and I've seen it with custom include and it also works. Okay, so this is the custom, or this is the config CP that's actually in my server. So let's get rid of these guys. Let's leave the JSON there so that we can see it. So now that I've deleted that, did it save already? Okay, well, let's take a look then. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. So we got rid of all those other guys, and I did not get rid of top navigation bar. Let me get rid of that real quick. Oh, not you. I want nav bar.
Hi, David. David Book just joined us.
Hi,
Hey,
you
Dave, what's
guys.
going on? Pretty good. Okay, now, as you can see, in my plugin CP file, that's not my plugin CP file. Okay, right now, I really only have my 4 custom and the BT-JSON there showing, but you'll notice that we get screen nickname anyway. So that's given to you regardless. So if you're going to add more things, nickname's not going to be one of them. Otherwise, we have our 4 examples, and then we can see the JSON results here. So in your text box example, you can type pretty much whatever you want. And when you save it, it gets saved into your JSON for that screen. You have a checkbox example, and it'll tell you these checkbox results. Radio button. Okay, radio button tells you something. Then you have a drop-down box here. And the way that you get these the way you want them is in your plugin, your custom plugin, there are going to be certain attributes that you're going to want to give the user control over, whether it's color or a file name or something of that nature. So you include these in your CP, and then you have the the file name here. Hang on, let me get rid of the ones that are local so we can just be working with the ones that are up on my server. Okay. So here's our checkbox example. And basically, you can see all you're really concerned about is this little section right here. And all it really is an HTML form without the form. All you're looking at are the HTML elements, whether that element is a checkbox or whether that element is a drop-down box. All you're kind of doing is just creating that one element and placing it in your BT sample HTML file. So the key things you want to remember if you're creating something new is this custom to is kind of what it's keying on. So let's say our test section, and take this custom to or custom one or whichever one you're starting off with.
Hey, Smug.
Yes, sir.
What is there, like seven of them you got to change in there?
There's 7 of them in various locations. Like, you don't want to replace the whole word because it's not in the whole word. You've got this area here that says section custom to. Then you've got this area here that says JSON custom to. And you don't want to change out this JSON underscore, nor do you want to change out this box underscore or any of that. You just want to change the custom to. And so you do a search on that, and all of it should be 7 occurrences of that custom 1 or custom 2, depending on which test file you're playing with. Another thing you kind of want to remember is, despite the fact that you did this in an index.php file, you can't just copy and paste the information out of that PHP because, well, parts of it are in PHP and the HTML is a little odd. So just basically start from scratch. Grab a custom section 1 or a custom section 2, do your replacements, and then change your HTML object to whatever you want it to be. Okay, so here's our new custom thing. We want to change this to whatever we want it to be. Let's go color. And then basically, if we save this to our FTP server, okay, let's call it. So you create a new file, you save it with your plugin. Once you've saved it with your plugin, the easiest way to add it would be to make a copy of something that's already there. And then just add it to your config.cp file. Once that's done, you can go to your control panel and refresh. And here's our new test section here. And it's blank because we don't have anything in there. And so now we have a new JSON value of JSON key of my custom object, and then of course the value is some value we want based on what we entered in our file here, my custom object. So my custom object is the name of the JSON key that you'll be looking for once this makes it to your plugin. And the value for that is whatever you designate it to be. Now, if you want the users to enter in whatever they want, you can do some value. Otherwise, if you want to limit them what they want, you may want to limit them either with a checkbox or by a drop-down box or by a radio button. Any of these will limit them in what they can choose. Now, here's something I found a little interesting. With the radio button, because you can force the user to only get one value, then the radio button will really only give you one value. But the checkbox, I found, if you make the, where are we at here? In our checkbox drop down, you have to give them different IDs and different names. Because if you give them the same ID and the same name, and you check both boxes, it will only recognize the last box that you checked. So if we had checkbox, well here, let's just go ahead and show you. Let's make all this checkbox 1, right? Okay, so we know that our checkboxes both have names and IDs of checkbox 1, even though one has a value of bold and one has a value of italic. So if we go to our page and we refresh it, okay, and we go to our checkbox, if we go and we say bold and we check it, well then our checkbox says bold. Or if we go and we say italic, it will say italic. But if we do both bold and italic and we check it, it will only save the last checkbox that it goes through. And okay, that's not my phone. It goes through top to bottom, so it's only going to realize that it's italic if italic is checked. You'll never get the bold. So while you're doing checkboxes, if you want to get the individual values, you're going to have to give each checkbox its own name and its own ID. Alrighty? So if you do that, you don't have a problem. So you'll only want to use checkbox for options, not necessarily if you're going to give them more than one choice, then a checkbox is fine. Otherwise, if you want to force them to one option, one choice, then you want to do either a radio button or a drop-down box. Alrighty, so do we have any questions so far on this particular part? On either creating the HTML page, the order that it goes in your control panel, or anything on the control panel information itself? Do we
Well,
have any questions on that?
I'm not sure where we at with at with time with your presentation, Smug, but I wonder if there's time, and maybe we can do this later if you're not sure if there is time to walk through what all these different elements are in the HTML plugin. You know, what do each of those pieces do? What's an ID? What's a name? And if that's just too much detail, if that's an off-track
Um,
question.
it's not that much detail, but I'm not sure how much information I'm going to be able to provide you that's useful. I'm just kind of copying what Dave had written, and so I know that a name and an ID is important, and I know that they have to be unique. But most of what's going on under the hood for this, I really haven't checked into. I don't know why, I just know what. Um, so each of these areas between this div and this div is just basically an HTML object. And if you go to any of your favorite uh, tutorial, oh yeah, oh yeah, I guess so. Where am I going? There we go. Yeah, go to any tutorial that teaches you about HTML forms, and all you got to really worry about is the form elements themselves. You don't have to worry about the submit button. All you're really worried about is the text field or the checkboxes, and this will tell you about checkboxes, how to do checkboxes, or radio buttons, or drop-down boxes, or any of that is all explained there. Uh, on almost any of these guys.
Yeah, that's a
And
really
the
good
only
idea.
part of this that we're working with, go ahead.
I said that's a really good idea. I mean, I think if you want to understand why you're doing what you're doing, just study anything. I like the TIZAG too. Just study anything on HTML forms, and then you'll understand why you're doing what you're doing, how you're making the form box.
Yeah, it's you kind of have to understand how HTML elements work. And forgive me, it's not really it's something you should already know if you're going to get into plugins. And if you don't already know it, you're going to need to read up on it because it's important. But it's not something I don't want to spend my plugin day teaching HTML. Um, so all I'm going to say on that is that these are just HTML form elements, and they're very easy to understand if you've ever done HTML forms. If you have not, you're going to have to spend a little time playing with it, but it's not as difficult as you think. And again, most of these are just the HTML forms without the form. Just the radio button syntax is all you really need, or the select syntax is really all you need. The generic text box, it's it's all just an HTML element. So if you understand HTML elements, you shouldn't have a problem. If you're not as familiar with HTML elements, there's places all over the web to show you how. And again, TZAG and then W3 Schools or whatever that is, they do a pretty good job of it, I think. So that being that, if we have no, do we have any questions on this? If not, I'll move on. But if we have a question, let's go ahead and get that out of the way.
I'm keeping.
Okay,
I'm
so
muting on
uh,
here too, but there's one question. Well, Ellie has a question. As I'm not understanding why my plugins don't download, but I think we should hold that one till later. That's a little more. That I don't think that's to this. That's till later maybe. And other than that,
what
um,
why the plugin doesn't download?
yeah, why the plugins aren't downloading is his question.
Oh,
Or
okay. We'll get to that toward the end.
yeah.
That's not actually as on topic as I would like, so I'm going to hold that off for just a little bit. So now we're going to move into our Xcode,
Okay.
and here's the nib file for this plugin that I've created.
Hmm.
Let's get rid of that and that. Might be kind of hard to see. I don't know. There's a lot of white there. Here's our implementation file, and here's our header file. Now, in our header file, we're really only going to call for two variables, and there's really not even two. One is the label, which is our test label, this guy right there, and then the other thing is just a string because I want a string. Also, we've listed a method, and it's another method just to change the label, and we'll explain a little bit about that. So here's our implementation file, and here's all the meat of it, although there really isn't that much meat. And in our view will appear, we basically we declare a local variable called label bold text. Here's how we're getting the information. We're going through and we're checking on our checkbox. If you remember before, we have our checkbox. Here's checkbox 1, here's checkbox 2, and checkbox 1 has a value of bold. Checkbox 2 has a value of italic. And so in the code, we're checking for the value of checkbox 1 here, and that will be our bold text. We're checking for italic text in this checkbox 2 right here. And then, of course, we have our debugger who's going to give us this information. And then if the bold text, our test label, we're using Helvetica as our test font. So in the label, I set the default as some other one, and that's so we can definitely see the font change. Because Helvetica, as a sans serif, there's a million fonts that kind of look sort of like it. You can't be sure. So I just wanted completely different appearing fonts so that we could see the difference in it. Theoretically, I think I'm starting. Yeah, there it is. That's kind of small. Okay. Okay, so if for no other reason than just to explain that things are actually happening, we have a different font, and it looks like it's italic. It may be bold. I'm not sure. But let's find out how this all got here. Okay, we do have both bold and italic. So part 1 is we created an HTML file. Part 2 is that we listed our HTML file in our control panel configuration file. There it is, yeah. This radio button file, right? Or I'm sorry, not radio button, it was the checkbox, wasn't it? Okay, so our checkbox file, which again, by the way, so we have checkbox 1, checkbox 2, a value of bold and italic. Then in our control panel, we've configured our checkbox HTML to show up as 1, 2, third one down. So here it is, 1, 2, third one down. And the reason is because screen nickname comes automatically. So in our JSON down here, we have checkbox 1 as bold, checkbox 2 as italic. That's cool. So when you get your JSON config file, and this is the original, it's not something, it'll have all of that down here. So let's see here. Okay, so it's both bold and italic. If we go back to our control panel, that's not our control panel. Go back to our control panel. Let's change it to italic text. Let's say we're going to align it left. Save. Okay, so left, left. That's interesting. Really? Left, left? Line right. Left, left. Hang on for just one moment. That's odd. That'll do it every time.
One thing I'm noticing is that the screen is a little jumpy. I don't know if it's because it's all the way in Guam that we're seeing this from, but it's not a very smooth. It's like the screen refreshes and just pops up all
Oh,
this.
okay. Sorry
So
about that. It looks gorgeous over here.
yeah.
But that doesn't help a whole lot.
Oh no,
What do I
it's
need to
working.
do?
It's just that like right now it's trying to like the animations are gone and stuff.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's good.
Okay, so let's just say italic and not bold. So now we've got italic and not bold, and also we want it to be aligned left. Okay, so we say italic, we don't have bold. Radio button says left. Another thing is, if your value is nothing, then the JSON won't go there. So like this default alignment for the radio button, if you'll notice the radio button default alignment is actually no value at all. This value is center, left, right, whatever. This is blank. And so for any JSON value, if you save a non-value, it just pulls the JSON out. So if you go, where is it? It may be that it's just not, doesn't have a value in it. So let's align this, let's align it center. Okay, so we have italic, we have center. Let's go back to our JSON here. Okay, so if the checkbox 1 has a value, it'll be bold. And if the checkbox 2 has a value, or I'm sorry, yeah, bold and italic. And then if the bold text is equal to bold or italic, basically this code here is checking for the values of those checkboxes. If one or the other or both is checked. Then we have an alignment string test here. The string label align gets its value from the radio button. And then, of course, we're printing out our values here in our log, in our logcats. So if the label is equal to left, basically align it left. If the string is equal to right, align it right. If it's equal to center, align it center. Otherwise, it doesn't do boo because you didn't give it a value. So if we run this again and we look at it, it's over there on the left. Now, if we refresh it, it's in the center and it's not bold, it's merely italic. And then we can go over to here and get rid of the italic, save it, align it left, save it. Okay. Run this one more time. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't really need to rerun it, we just needed to refresh it. Sorry about that. So, okay, let's go back, refresh, test plugin. Okay, it's no italic, no bold, aligned on the left, and it's Buzztouch orange. Let's go back to our thing. Let's go to our drop-down example and let's make it red. And so you'll notice here, this value is this hex value. And I've changed it. I shouldn't have to do anything but refresh it, right? Exciting, isn't it? Okay, there we are. So our color's changed, but it's back on the left. And the way we're doing that is basically gleaning through our JSON variables by the use of this BT strings get JSON property. For each of our control panel options, whether it's checkbox, radio button, drop down, something, you get that value in the code. Let's do a real quick, what time is it? I guess we got a little bit of time. Let me do a real quickie here.
We are gathering a lot of questions here too. I've had a hard time just fitting the questions in here. So
Okay.
make sure we allow some time for questions.
Yeah, let's go ahead and hit up a couple and get them out of the way.
Um, okay, now I got to pick one here. Got all the comments mixed in here too. Okay, David has a long one here. If you create a new label in your nib, do we need to do anything to connect it to the M and H files, or can we just call the variables in your header, like you mentioned, NS label, NS string, and it will know what we're talking about in the new label we just created?
If the label, because you're talking about a nib file, if the label doesn't have an outlet, it's not really going to work. So we just added this little label here. Where'd it go? Okay, this label right there. And we're going to call that label IB outlet UI label. Okay, and we call it label David.
Mm-hmm.
Then here, I don't type as fast as David does, so. So you're going to at least need to do it here. Then in your zip file,
Mm-hmm.
you can select your item and go over to its properties, and then the referencing outlet is going to have to say what your label is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what's going to have to be done. Then from this point on, if you reference that SW underscore label David, it knows you're talking about this label here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do let's label something. And it's okay, it's a text. That's fine. It's a text box. That's good. So in our label something, where am I going? I'm going right. Where am I going? I'm going right here. Oops, not Chrome. My God. Okay, so let's just crank up this new test section here. Let's go 435.68, whatever that means. But it's an arbitrary number. Okay, and basically what we're going to do is, well, we're just going to play with it a little bit. But I want to talk to you about the fact that this is a number, but it's not a number as far as the computer is concerned for the moment. It's a string. Now, if you need a number, you're going to have to convert it to a number when you get it on the other side. So, oh, here's another thing that I wanted to talk to you about as well. Um, this test label, all of these values, all of these variables are all local variables declared in the method that they're being used in. And that's really the only good place for them. If you go down to a different method and you try and reference label align or label bold text, it's not going to understand what you're talking about because it does not know that they exist. It's going to scream at me, what are you talking about? Because it doesn't know what I'm talking about. If I set it up here, it would be just fine. Okay, maybe it wouldn't be fine. Did I get it right? I did. What are you crying about? Because it's not an instance variable, it's just a variable. Okay. Label bold text. Hang on. Okay, I'm showing my ignorance here. Hold on. Oh, there is no. Oh, never mind. Okay, now I see what I'm doing. I'm calling the wrong damn thing. Test label is the label. Or what was that other new label name? New label name is label David. Okay. So, what we want to do down here, let's go self.sw label David dot text set text. Okay, what am I doing here wrong? Yeah, just label set text.
Oh, it's always harder with an audience, isn't it?
Oh. Yeah, it's always the way it
It takes
is.
a
No,
lot of
I didn't
nerve to
synthesize
work in
it.
Xcode in front of an audience.
If you don't synthesize it, it doesn't know it's there.
Hmm. At least it's not Eclipse. If it was Eclipse, it'd probably crash.
Yeah, you're right. There we go.
There's a whole lot of questions on child items too. So
Oh God, yeah, I probably got a million of them myself.
yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm not going to be good at child items yet. I haven't done that much investigation of it.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Interesting. Why
And
isn't it
maybe
saying?
next week, I'm getting a message from David here, but maybe next week we can do something just on child items. You know,
Yeah, that would be fine because I want to learn about those, and I may or may not be able to get it, but I just haven't played with it yet, so I'm not 100% certain.
yeah.
That's probably what it was. White on white text, which is never any good. Okay, yeah, so there's our boo. So anyway, let's get back real quick and go set text. Let me steal it from here. Okay, let's go my number. Let's go ns. Let's try int. Int equals. Does that work? Then that works. Although you don't like it because what? It's not used. Right. Right. Okay. Wonder if this will work. Yeah, probably not. Right. Okay. Okay. Well, part one is in our text wrangler. We're talking about our test something field that we created earlier today. And then in Safari, or I'm sorry, in our control panel, we gave it a value of 435.68. So we're declaring this an integer, and we're getting the value by taking this string, my custom object, is that what I called it? Okay. Uh, okay, now let's see if this works. Okay, this doesn't work. What am I missing? Why am I missing that?
What's that term character?
Hold on here.
Oh, we got Smug. You just have an extra quotation mark. No one can interrupt us. I'm the only person with my mic open. There you go. Oh, take it back. There's something else too.
Oh yeah? Okay. You don't like it. So. Oh, okay. There's a different type of. Right. Okay. Although it dropped the decimal point because it was an integer, I suppose. But there's our custom object value.
Mm-hmm.
in our Xcode where we said we gave it the value here, and then we debug printed it, and basically all I'm really saying is it's not that difficult to be able to grab your value and use it. Um, if you need to put it into the text box, you do something like this. I don't know. How do I do an integer to string? You don't do string value, right? That's probably wrong. It doesn't look like it. My int. Well, I don't want to sit here and go from string to or variable to string. Let's put that there for right now. While I'm chewing on this for a second, what's one of our next questions?
Oh, I got a little lost here in but it does seem like there's a big discussion going on in the chat. The chat's only like this big on my screen. Maybe it's bigger for yours, but so I keep scrolling and it keeps jumping because we're chatting so much. But
Oh,
there's a whole series of problems, and one that I don't know, at Chris, if you're at a place you can, Chris, one, if you're at a place you can unmute, because you seem to have the most information about it. There's problems in self-hosting where they can't use anything with child items. So it's kind of a little separate discussion that's been going on.
okay,
And
yeah.
and then LA had a question in here about oh, what was your question, LA? It was is why not just use a color number? Well, the point of this is that LA is that we're trying to show how you can provide a string in your file, but then convert that string into an integer because you may need an integer for your project. But
Right, yeah.
you send it over. You can only make strings in the control panel. Is that right, Smug?
Yeah, no, everything from your control panel that goes into your JSON is going to go in as a string. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll need to convert it from a string to whatever you need it in the application.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times what I'm doing, you getting ready to go, Lil? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times what I'm doing is I'm working with coordinates, your geo coordinates, latitude and longitude.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those are double numbers, and I have to go from string to double.
Mm-hmm.
See you later. Okay. Sorry, my wife is leaving. Um,
So feel free to type in your questions again. I'm think I don't think I'm doing a very good job of being the
yeah,
facilitator
no.
with the questions, but feel free to type your questions in again, especially if you feel they weren't answered.
Okay, I now have my 2-inch chat window open.
Yeah, see, it's very hard to. I can go back to the beginning because there were some questions at the very beginning here, Smug.
Okay.
Let's see. What was that question I read off that we thought would answer later? I guess maybe you already got it. Oh, it's just the stupid window keeps
Yeah,
jumping too.
yeah, problems. If you're having a problem downloading a plugin to your control panel, um, I mean, honestly, I have that problem from time to time. I used to not. Now I'm having a problem getting it from a BT.
Mm-hmm.
But there's three basic ways that you're going to have to try it.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, which is usually the easiest, is copying from your BT control panel into your self-hosted.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't work, you're going to have to download the plugin and try and upload it manually.
Mm-hmm.
And if that doesn't work, then you're going to have to expand or decompress the zip file locally and then FTP it up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that with the new BT, you may need to manually insert a landing page. I noticed when I copied them from my BT control panel, I may or may not get a landing page, but if I put them in myself, I absolutely do not get one, and I have to actually add a landing page myself.
Mhm. There's some dialogue here, Smug, about kind of going back to the uploading the number and then as a string and then changing it to an integer. There's also some
Uh-huh.
interest in seeing that done with an image. See how you do that with an image?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that your question?
Give me a second because I'll probably have to cheat from one place to be able to do it in another. Um, but let's do a quick. Let's see how quick it can be done. I'll put it that way. Let me stop you. Go back here. Image view.
Okay, there's more comments on here. Okay, can you do a demonstration of referencing? Okay, can you do a demonstration of referencing a local image into your app? Am I saying that right, Dave?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Give me a second. We're changing label David to
Mr.
image
David.
view. Okay, Mr. David. Okay. So we now have a UI image view called Mr. David. So we have an image view in your zip file, and you attach it. That's not right. UI image view. Oh, okay. UI image view. UI image view. Give it an outlet. Okay. So then now let's go into our, and we'll cheat. We'll use the this guy here. Do I have any images? One. I guess I don't. Let me go find one real quick. Uh, review.
Well, can you use
Review.
something, an image from the BT art file?
Yeah, probably.
Yes, okay. Oh, okay. Actually, okay. Yeah, I wonder if I should turn off the recording pretty soon here because if it gets too long, I can't. I was fighting with them getting uploading them to YouTube. There's a really good suggestion from Mr. David or Mr. Van Beveren here to do a live demonstration to fix an existing plugin, which is kind of where I kind of hope this would go to, is we would actually just try to fix some live things.
Okay,
How do you feel about that, Smug?
that's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to turn off the recording. Thank you so much, Smug, for doing this. It's so great to have you organize this for us. I I had
Hey,
already
hope
worked on my
somebody
plugin
learned something.
after document, but I wish I had had it a few hours earlier, or because it was very helpful, very detailed, and then this was very helpful. In fact, this training today I think could be used not just for how to do your control panel, but how to make a simple plugin and how to link in your control panel into your app, which kind of goes beyond the changes we have right now. So thank you, Smug.
Oh,